Give me 1 second while, okay, give me 1 second while I bring up my presentation, which it did just close out on me. So give me 1 second, please. Okay. All right. How's that looking? Okay, and then I'm gonna try and hide this. Okay. Lots of windows open. Okay, here we go. So I hope you can all see this. Unfortunately, when I do the full screen, I can't see your faces. So please jump in or interrupt me if you have questions or need me to back up. But I am here tonight to talk about there we go, full screen, Como Golf Course and Lakeside Pavilion parking lots. And I'm sorry I had this for the Transportation Committee, but I know that I'm speaking to District 10, the Land Use Committee this evening. So I actually have been to your committee probably a year ago or just over a year ago. And we talked about the project when it was in its early stages of planning. Essentially this project is was funded to be a construction project to provide some new pavement and looking at the 3 parking lots that I've outlined here, the golf course parking lot, the North Lakeside Pavilion parking lot, and then the South Lakeside Pavilion parking lot. So we have the funding we received was to resurface the parking lots, update stormwater management, look at the bicycle and pedestrian circulation within this immediate area and address some of the needs for that. And then also just to really think about the space that we're working in, the significance of this area. We know the pavilion, the lake, it's a very well-loved, highly visited area. Try to accommodate all the people moving through this space. And then also with the golf course to support the activities that happen in the golf course with both summer and winter activities. So I'm showing you pictures of the existing conditions, which clearly show the deterioration that's happened over time in these parking lots, and they are simply in need of a renovation. So early on, if some of you were in the meeting over a year ago, we looked at the history of this area just to consider the context, trying to gain an understanding of how things came to be. I found it pretty interesting to look back at these old aerial images that show the old Cozy Lake area and the open channel that used to exist to Como Lake. And then also where the Schiffman Fountain is, how it actually functioned as kind of a roundabout where 4 roads came together. And now looking further down the line at 1938, it starts to show where the golf course is laid out, and as the area develops and the roadways start to develop, especially this driveway that used to go right through the backside of the pavilion and where the old Lexington Parkway used to be. So again, just context and history to think about, especially as we're looking at the approach to the building and the history of what used to be in this area. We also did a fair bit of community engagement with an online survey. And then I know that this group worked very hard on pulling together a report that talked about and identified some of the main areas that can be improved. So some suggestions, recommendations, and requests as we start to look at these areas. So that was very helpful, in the summary board of those comments is shown in the lower right-hand corner here. Oh, and then lastly, I just want to go back to the stormwater BMP feasibility study that was put together by Capital Region Watershed District. This also was a guiding force for us as we developed the plans and details for this project. So to start, I'm going to begin by looking at the south parking lot. This was an earlier concept scheme showing how we might make some adjustments to the parking lot itself. One of the areas that we wanted to address was the large turnaround space that's close to the Pavilion building itself, trying to limit and minimize some of the pavement in that area, since it's quite there's quite a lot of it. We also received comments from our natural resources staff and recreation staff and the community too, to add in a non-motorized boat launch in this area. So there's a direct connection to the lake for boats that such as kayaks or canoes, that type of thing, more for recreational use. And then also looking at some of the adjacent trails on the south parking lot, trying to provide a little bit more width for two-way traffic for bikes and peds, and just trying to organize the movement around this parking lot. So those were all things we considered in the earlier scheme. Also looking at the best management practices for where to treat stormwater. This diagram actually came from the Capital Region Watershed Report I was just talking about, where they proposed some concepts for how stormwater runoff from the parking lot could be treated so that we're making sure that the water that's going into the lake is the cleanest possible water that can be. So this was an early concept, and it was developed further into what you see now. So now we're looking at more of a black and white construction drawing, so a layout plan showing the new parking lot layout. So we will be losing, with this one, we'll be adding 4 spaces because we're reorganizing some of the pavement in this drop-off area. We've also added the boat launch here. We've kind of reorganized some of the pathways, and then added an additional 6 feet of pathway on this northern side of the parking lot, so that there's more space for where the Surrey bikes are coming and going, and then pedestrians are walking. And then this area outlines, but isn't showing the full context of the stormwater BMP. Let me see if I can bring that up real quick. But we are essentially designing this to take the stormwater from the parking lot. 1 second, and I'll get a more detailed plan. Okay, this starts to show some of the grading for that stormwater BMP. I think some of my layers aren't actually coming through. I have big documents open here, but there will be 2 basins just off the, let's see, that would be the south west corner of the parking lot before it reaches the lake, which is here. 2 kind of retention ponds where the stormwater will, we've interrupted a couple pipes, overflow pipes from the parking lot. So the stormwater will come in and be outletted into these pipes, and it'll either infiltrate through the pipes or there's an overflow in this area. So there will be an open channel that shows some of the overflowing stormwater that will go into the lake after it's had a chance to be cleaned in these basins. Sorry, let me go back. Okay, back to my full screen. So those are the highlights for the south parking lot area. The organization is largely the same. We are designating one-way traffic through this parking lot to try and be most efficient with the space we have. And then we've also introduced islands for tree plantings to kind of break up that huge swath of pavement. I'll keep moving through the 3 concepts, and then we'll have time for questions at the end. But again, if I'm not being clear, feel free to interrupt me. So this is the North Pavilion parking lot. And this was an earlier scheme we were looking at. And we received great feedback as far as, at one point we were trying to propose having traffic or having a bike path on this driveway. And it was introduced, or there were comments from the community that really talked about why that was a difficult place to be. There's a lot going on here with cars coming and going. So we actually eliminated this option, and I'll show you the revised version in a minute. But I also wanted to just show you, these are the two existing conditions pictures where there's an existing curb line and a wide driveway as you come in off of Lexington Parkway. Also from our stormwater feasibility study from CAP Regions that talked about or identified 2 places for the bioinfiltration basins for stormwater runoff from the parking lot. So we followed that concept and now have 2 stormwater basins in the same location as it was shown on this diagram. So I apologize, I'm kind of turning drawings as we go. But Lexington, just for orientation, is right along here, and the pavilion is in this area. So the bigger changes for this parking lot is that we have removed the parking spaces. I believe there were 4 in this area close to the pavilion. And we did that just to organize the flow a little bit more. So this is also a one-way layout. And try to not lead people down this driveway towards the pavilion. That's been a common occurrence that we've heard of from our operations staff. People often end up down here and have to back their way out. So in this instance, we now have a drop-off zone for people. We actually have 2. So one is you're coming around here, or also in this area. And then there are 73 proposed parking spaces. So we are losing the 4 parking spaces, but not taking away too many in this scheme. Other things to note, we've actually added another trail, another 10-foot trail for bike traffic. Right now, there's bikes and peds combined on one trail closer to the lake. So we've added an additional trail option and are directing bike traffic away from the pavilion building just to keep that movement separated. And I think that's about it for this area that I can highlight for now. Oh, I guess a couple other things. We're adding some pavement markings to try and accommodate the crossing of the new bike path that's along Lexington. I'm using my cursor to point out where that is. And then just trying to make the pedestrian and bike traffic a little more fluid here. So as we move to our third parking lot, this is the golf course parking lot. An earlier scheme showed using tree trenches and treating stormwater in the south of the parking lot. However, as we looked at that, it was not quite as feasible, and also this south area is a real valuable space for the operations and maintenance department to use for tool cleaning and for maintenance and having space in this area. Additionally, we know there's been some flooding issues in the golf course and wanted to minimize water that's being directed out towards the golf course in this area. So we, and then also looking at the depressed area. So as you enter in the drive, there's the lower area that's really hard to see what's even down there. There's the historic bridge, and then just a lot of vegetation growing. So our new scheme actually regrades this lower area. So I've turned you once again, the golf course, the clubhouse building is in this area where I'm pointing with my cursor. The entry drive from Lexington is here. And then the operations maintenance buildings are in this left-hand side of the drawing that I'm showing. So the layout of this parking lot is generally the same. We've added a couple islands, and we'll re-add some trees and introduce canopy in here to try and break up the pavement And then also adding a new storm sewer pipe that'll take a smaller area and outlet it into this lower basin. And with that will be regrading, removing some of the vegetation, trying to open it up so you do have views into this depressed area as well as towards the historic bridge. So in this one, we are losing one parking space, but again, maintaining the general layout as it is. Okay. Now my computer's out of memory here. Let's see if I can get to the next page. So that's basically the end of the presentation. I know I have a couple more slides that talk about our next steps. So where we, and our budget. So that might come up if I close out one of these, we'll see. Well, this is an old version, but this is a summary of the budget. So we're looking at approximately a $2 million project for all 3 parking lots. We've been through site plan review and we do have this project out for bid. So that means there's potential to start construction this year. Most likely the parking lots will be constructed next spring. At least the pavilion lots, I think, will be constructed in the spring. But this shows you where the funding has come from. State Legacy Grant was a large part of our funding because this is in a regional park. We also received a grant from CAP Regions Watershed District since we're adding a lot with the stormwater component of this project. And then Ramsey County, we're just finalizing a Bowser grant from them, also to help with clean water and native plant restoration. And I think, sorry to show you blank screens, my computer's out of memory. So that is essentially it. I'll keep trying to bring up the other slides. I can also email these out as follow-up too, but do you have any questions or can I clarify any points? And again, while I'm sharing my screen, I can't really show people, so I guess I could. But jump on in if you have any comments or questions.
I've got one. Going back to the north parking lot by the pavilion. That little driveway, where'd it go? There.
Mm-hmm.
So that, because they kind of need a space, is that for dropping off their supplies? Like,
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, so there still is an access point. The trash and recycling receptacles are down in this area.
Yeah.
We are working on a structure to enclose that, but at this time, it's not part of this immediate project.
Yeah.
And thanks for asking about this because that brings up a good point. So in this plan, we're adding in. We have bollards shown right here, so people won't be driving through. We may end up putting in a gate rather than bollards because our operations.
What do you mean by bollards? Is that
sorry, bollards are like posts
Oh.
in the driveway, so that can collapse. So
I
you
see.
can have certain vehicles drive through, but not.
Yeah, because just a sign doesn't keep them out. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And yes, so I remember that was an important part is the trash and recycling location. So we're still working on that, and it may or may not be a part of this project. The other thing I wanted to note, sorry, is that signage and kiosks, I know, came out of the District 10 comments. And so we are adding trail markings and a handful of trail signage along the trails that are primarily existing. And then additionally, I'm showing with my cursor where we will be adding in a kiosk, which is, they have them on Grand Rounds. It's actually part of the Grand Round trail system, but it's the 4-sided, roofed kiosk location, and there will be a paved area and benches, and that will go right at this intersection. So just south of where the Shipman Fountain is near the lake.
That reminds me of something else by the pavilion. There's that sign, it's really old now, where they used to put, what was going on at the pavilion.
Oh,
Information sign, is that still there? Yeah, I think it
that
is.
is still there.
And that needs to
Yes.
be redone, I think. I mean, it'd be
Okay.
nice to have something where they could show the entertainment that's going to be coming up. That
Mhm.
was the purpose of that, and then it kind of quit
Yep.
happening.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's a good note. And the other comment I'm going to make too, or just information to provide you, is that this project is funded for and focuses on the parking lots
Yeah.
and the immediate adjacent trails.
Mhm.
However, coming up soon, and this is exciting news for us, we do have funding to do a master plan for this whole area, and that will really look in more depth and detail at all of the trail movements, all of the bikes and peds throughout the system. So while we tried to address what we could with these 3 parking lots, it's not really looking at the full system as a whole and identifying some of the areas that need more significant improvement.
Right.
So for example, we worked hard at trying to include a trail from Lexington up to the clubhouse. I know that's needed because right now the sidewalk kind of comes to an end as you come from this north parking lot towards the golf course, but we didn't quite have enough funding. So this will end up going on that master plan, and then we'll slowly take bites out of those projects that come out of the master plan. So stay tuned for that, and I hope you're all very involved.
Yeah. So maybe that sign that I'm talking about will fit into one of those plans. Yeah.
Yes.
How big is the area for that master plan? Is it just around the lake, or all of Como Park, or all of District 10 for the
Yes.
master plan?
Very good question, and I will have to get back to you on that. I know it includes the whole lake area, and then kind of what you're seeing in this view shed. I'm not 100% sure if it's the entire regional park. That would make the most sense, but that's also such a huge undertaking. I don't recall if we kind of broke this off into just a smaller area or not. So I can come back and bring more information once we have a better understanding of the scope of that project.
Great, no problem.
Thanks.
And when you talk about the, kind of the pathway marking, so we had, I assume that this is one of the pieces that you'll use is the pathways report that the District 10, we had like a specific pathways group that worked for like a year and a half to kind of go through and look at make recommendations for where some of that wayfinding information needed to be placed.
Yeah, so I think with this project, again, there are not significant changes. There is some with the layout and connections. There is path widening in some of the areas where there was some pinch points. So in those areas, we'll add signage and trail markings to indicate flow and traffic flow. But I think the next step, that overall master plan, will look at everything more holistically.
Thank you. The other, I have a couple other questions here on my note list. On the north lot, this one. So previously, kind of at that spot where you eliminated the 4 parking spaces in like the tail, between the pedestrian path and that area, that drop off road, there's a native garden, like a demonstration garden.
Right.
So if that's a basin now, will that go away? What happens to that?
Yes, we looked at that with our natural resources staff, the garden itself. And then, so yeah, it will go away. There's a possibility we could relocate some of the plant material. But we have been working hand in hand with natural resources just to make sure that what we're putting back in is good for the water quality and for the native plants and pollinators in this location. So in my opinion, it's sort of an upgrade to what's there.
Yeah, and I was gonna say I know in the past D10 has tried to help facilitate the volunteers to care for
Okay.
that garden. And we had a couple folks who did it for a lot of years, and both of them have retired from volunteer gardening. And so it has been left a little untended in the last few years. So I think, yeah, honestly, any plan is probably an upgrade from the plan that is there right now.
Yeah.
The other place where there is a very well-tended garden is at the other end of that pedestrian path, kind of where it connects to the bike trail, all the way at the extreme north end, kind of along the lake there.
Over here.
Yep, in this area. And that one is, I would say, actively maintained. And so and there's a person, there's like a specific person that tends that one with deep care. All the time. And so I would just, if something is going to change there, I would want to make sure that we, find a way to contact that person so that they know that there's change afoot and can protect their plants or help move or whatever it is that needs to happen.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, and I believe we're not getting close to that area. I think
Okay.
it's further.
It is,
out
it's
of
in
the
that
project
teeny
area.
little strip kind of right
Yeah.
between the two. Yeah. So I think that hopefully be out of the purview of this project, because she's worked very hard for a lot of years on that one.
And maybe we could just, I'm happy to give a heads up.
Yeah,
before,
I think maybe
for-
we'll figure out how to, I'll see if I can figure out who that is and how to get in touch with them.
Okay.
And then make sure that she knows ahead of time. And then the other question I had is, in resurfacing those lots, they'll obviously need to be closed for a period of time. We know that there's heavy demand on these parking lots at times.
Right.
So with the timeline here, is part of it, one is closed while the other is open? Is there a point where both will be closed? And is there any plan for like overflow or alternate parking during any of those construction phases?
Thank you. Very good question. I will know more once we award the contract, and I hope to do so within the month. Right now, we are not, there's a chance, well, our first priority is the golf course lot, only in terms of trying to get it kind of on the shoulder seasons for the golf course, either right now, late fall or very early spring. So that's probably going to be the first lot to go under construction. And then for the north and south, we just can't have them both under construction at once. And so we've written that into our specs, and we'll have to have some sort of, a staging plan or plan once the contractor's on board for how we do one at a time. So my guess is the south lot will be first and then the north lot. There's a possibility the golf course lot could be under construction at the same time as one of the pavilion lots. But I think the best way I can move ahead is just keep that information on the project website and or send an update as we move ahead with this.
Yep, and we can help let people know locally,
Okay.
so that they can plan. Maybe we tell people to, if you're in walkable distance, walk instead of drive this week.
Okay.
Some things, just to try to relieve a little bit of that pressure there. Those are my questions. Thank you.
Thanks.
Are there any other questions for Anne while we have her here? All right, is it possible for us to get copies of some of the plans here so we can put those on our website and kind of help circulate them around so people aren't just totally surprised when it shows up? I know that this is, so Suzanne just said on here, nice to see it coming to fruition. I think this has been something that people have been thinking about, and certainly observing the need for resurfacing in those lots for a long time. So I think it'll be a welcome project.
Good. Yes, and I can send out information, this presentation PDF, I can certainly send out.
Thank you. Any other questions for Anne while we still have her here? Okay.
I have a question later, but it's on a different project, so I didn't want to jump in on this just as a FYI, so.
Okay. Okay, is it something that, is it for the bike plan? Because I want to let Anne, I want to be respectful of Anne's time and let her
Yep.
get
No,
on with her
it's
evening.
something going on with the anti-racist working group.
Okay,
So it's just more of a heads up of a project that we've been discussing and are putting funding in to the legacy grant for a planning grant. So we could talk about it later on, or, but I didn't want to interrupt the flow of your thing, but it'd be on the other side of the park, right at the Midway Parkway entrance, or right on Midway Parkway in Hamlin. So.
Okay.
and I think, Laura, if that's that, Anne, if you wouldn't mind, if you could put your email in the chat, maybe that's something that Laura can connect with you about to ask that question.
Offline, yep.
Yes, yeah.
Okay.
Thanks.
Thank you so much to Anne for your time here tonight. I hope that you can get some more memory for your computer from the city at some point. Do you need us to put a motion in District 10 Como Community Council supports additional memory for Anne's computer?
It's my own fault for having too many things open at once and not restarting my computer enough. So that's it. It's my own issue, but I apologize that I had some blank slides at the end. I don't think we missed anything, so that's good.
All good. Thank you so much, Anne. We appreciate your time. Have a good evening.
Thanks, everybody. Yep. Bye.